Edelia the Cornflower Girl. Prologue. High up on the sharp peaks of the mountains, where only eagles dare to fly and where the clouds cast their silent shadows over the deep precipices, lived a cornflower. She was no ordinary flower. Born from the morning dew and blessed by the moonlight, she grew alone, hidden from the eyes of the world, with her roots deep in the cold stone and her dreams clinging to the sky. Her name was Edelia, a name unspoken by anyone, but proudly born in the silence of the mountain. Day after day, the wind sang her old songs and the stars watched over her. But her vegetable heart, unseen and unheard, yearned for something else. A deep desire made her tremble on the clear nights, to be able to walk, to speak, to feel, to be human, to descend into the world below, where rivers laugh, children play and people share their love and pain. For years, Edelia dreamed with her eyes towards the horizon. But who would have thought that one day, the steps of an old woman, with eyes like chamomile and the smell of jasmine, would approach her rock. There was the Fairy Floraea, the goddess of flowers, a being as old as the earth, but full of gentleness. She could speak to all plants and felt, in that cornflower, a different kind of life. Then in the breeze, Edelia raised her prayer. Not for immortality, but for life. For feeling.To know the world with all its beauty and weight. And the fairy listened. This is the story of a flower that dared to dream further than the horizon. The story of a fragile heart, born from the mountain, that descended into the world not to get lost, but to bloom differently. Chapter 1. Desire. The sharp wind blew gently over the steep cliff, bringing with it the cold smell of eternal snow and the unheard rustle of time that flows differently on the mountain peaks. On a white cliff, grown between hard and cold stones, a cornflower lived its life. It was not just any flower, it was Edelia, the flower that had dreamed. Her delicate velvety body had witnessed countless sunrises. She had seen the birds flying below her, heard the thunder rolling over the rocks, felt the touch of the first winter snowflake and the rare warmth of the summer sun. But she had experienced all this in a deep silence, in an eternal immobility. She could not leave, she could not cry, she could not caress. The earth held her bound, as if life itself had given birth to her to contemplate without touching. And deep in her vegetal being, a spark of desire had been born. 𝕮𝖆𝖕𝖆. First it was a curiosity. What is happening beyond the clouds, beyond the rocks? Then it grew, becoming a question. What is that human life? And finally, the desire rose like a silent prayer to the sky. I want to be alive, like them. The day Floraea answered the call was the most important of her existence. The goddess of flowers, born from the essence of the green world, came floating, with footsteps without traces and eyes of light. When she saw her, Edelia trembled. Not from the wind, but from a new, unknown emotion, hope. The goddess approached and understood, without words, what was burning in the unknown heart of the flower. Tell me, Edelia, what do you want? Floraea asked, in a voice that was not heard with the ears, but felt in the heart, like a forgotten melody. The petals moved gently, like a breeze. I want life. I want to be human, to feel the wind with my skin, to see the world with real eyes, to be able to walk, to be able to speak, to be able to love, to live, even if it hurts. The goddess remained silent for a moment. She looked with sadness and wisdom at the flower. She had witnessed, in her millennia of existence, naive desires, vain requests, souls that did not know what they were asking for. But Edelia was different. She did not ask to get rid of something. She did not ask out of vanity. Her desire was pure, clean as a dewdrop. And that is precisely why she was dangerous. Edelia, what you ask for is a double-edged gift. To be human means to have a soul. And the soul, even if it is the source of love, is also the gate of pain. People love, but also betray. They hope, but also lose. They forgive, but also hurt. Will you be able to bear all this? The flower fell silent. But from her silence there was a conviction stronger than any words. I have stood still all my life, with my roots clinging to the stone. I have heard the laughter of hikers and the songs of birds. I have seen how the clouds change their shape and how the sun leaves and returns. I have felt everything, but I have lived nothing. If life means crying, laughing, feeling, I want to know everything. I want to be alive. Floraea bowed her head. A flower that asked for human life had never happened before. It was against the law of nature, against the natural order. But maybe, sometimes, the love for life is itself a law. And maybe, In this love, a greater power is hidden than in magic. If I transform you, you will no longer be a flower. You will no longer be able to feel the roots in the earth, nor the wind through the petals. You will be flesh and blood. You will feel hunger, cold, longing. And you will not be able to turn back. I know, Edelia answered. But that is how it must be. Because a life lived in the unknown hurts more than any wound. The goddess approached, soft light emerged from her hands, like a dawn breeze, and in that light, all the flowers in the world told their stories. Tea was the essence of creation, the primordial seed of life, which only Floraea could touch. Then, I will give you what you ask for. I will give you a human body, eyes with which to see the world, a heart with which to feel, a voice with which to speak. But I will also leave you a memory. The scent of the cornflower will stay with you. And whoever meets you will know that you are different. The sky darkens for a moment, and the mountain trembles. An unexpected warm breeze rises from the stone. Around the flower, the air began to pulse. The petals shook slowly, turning into hair. The stem bent and stretched out, becoming a body. A beat was heard, the heart. Then another. And another. When the light dissipated, in the place of the flower stood a girl. She was fragile and beautiful, with silver hair, eyes clear as the sky and a shy smile. Her feet touched the ground for the first time. Her hands moved undecided. But in her eyes there was a special light, the light of beginning, of wonder, of fulfilled desire. Your name is still Edelia, the goddess told her. Your name will not change, because what you are must not be forgotten. The girl closed her eyes and inhaled. For the first time, she felt the air. She felt the cold that shivered her skin. She felt the weight of her own body. And a tear. Not of pain, but of amazement. Thank you, Floraea, she whispered. The goddess smiled, but the smile was melancholic. She knew what awaited the girl. But she also knew that this choice had been made with her heart. Go now, child. The world awaits you. You will love. You will fall. You will grow. You will suffer and laugh. This is human life. A treasure paid for dearly. With one last glance, Floraea turned and disappeared into the wind, into the leaves, into the scents, leaving Edelia alone. But she was no longer a flower. She was a being. Edelia walked slowly, discovering every gesture. Every stone under her feet was a revelation. Every sound, a mystery. The world, finally, was opening up to her. And so, the impossible wish had come true. But the real adventure was just beginning. Chapter 2. First Steps. The dawn of a new day was spilling over the mountain ridges like a canvas of pale light, painting the rocks in shades of gold and silver. To the world, it was a morning like any other. To Edelia, it was her first morning. The first time she had felt the chill of morning, not like a breeze caressing petals, but like a living touch on bare skin. The first time her feet had rested on the ground, trembling slightly, fragile and curious. Edelia stood on the top of the rock that had once been her cradle, where once her roots had sunk deep into the stone. Now her heart throbbed. Her blue gaze, deep as the winter sky, stretched out over the green forests, the shadowed valleys, the rivers that sparkled in the distance. Everything was new. Every tree, every stone, every cloud seemed to call to her with an unspoken promise. And yet, amidst this grand landscape, she felt small. So, this is what it's like to be alive, she whispered to herself. Her voice sounded weak, strange, like a language she knew instinctively, but had never spoken. It was heard for the first time. She liked the sound. It was warm, fragile, real. She took a step. Her knees trembled. Her bare feet encountered sharp, cold stones, but it didn't hurt. The pain was a part of her new existence, and she welcomed it with amazement, not fear. She staggered, fell to her knees, but laughed. It was her first fall. She rose slowly, her hands supporting herself on the rock, and took another step. Then another. Walking was an act of will. Each step was a choice, a gesture in which she said to herself, I exist. The climb was hard, but the descent was an adventure. As high as the mountain that had held her captive had been, so wide was the unknown who was waiting for her below. She looked at the horizon and felt for the first time the taste of fear. It was a deep, unknown thrill, but also a calling. On her way, Edelia discovered the wind, not the one that rustled through the petals, but the wind that penetrated through the hair, that whipped her cheeks and ripped the tears from her eyes. She was cold, but she was also happy. Everything was a revelation. A white butterfly flew past her. Without thinking, she reached out her hand. The butterfly stopped on her finger, as if it recognized her. Edelia smiled, and her heart filled with such pure joy that she felt it could melt. "You are free too. But you have wings," she whispered. She had legs. But maybe, in a way, walking was a form of flight. Descending among the rocks, she approached the edge of a forest. The sun barely penetrated through the dense branches. The air was humid, smelling of moss, earth and life. A bird was singing somewhere in the foliage, and Edelia stopped, spellbound. That sound, the song, was more beautiful than any silence she had known in her life as a flower. She bent down and touched the trunk of a tree. The bark was rough, cold but alive. She felt the connection with the forest, that ancient, deep knowledge, left in her from her life as a flower. She knew instinctively which plants were good, which hid poison, which trees had warm wood and which kept the shadows of the cold. But now everything was seen through the eyes of a man. And it was overwhelming. A deer jumped out of a bush. For a moment, their eyes met. Edelia felt a vibration, a silent recognition. Nature still saw her as one of its own, even though her body had been changed. The deer looked at her with gentle eyes, then jumped into the depths of the forest. "I am not yet one of the people, and yet, I am not even a flower anymore," she said in a low voice. The night began to fall. The sky turned purple, then dark blue, and finally black. The stars rose one by one, like thoughts. Edelia had no clothes, no fire, no shelter. But she did not complain. She gathered leaves, made a bed for herself next to a thick fir trunk, and curled up, shivering. That night she learned what true cold is. Human loneliness, the darkness that does not bring peace, but unrest. But that same night she learned something even more important, the courage to stay. She woke up at dawn, enveloped in fog. Drops of dew had settled on her body. She was cold in her bones, but in her soul, a new will, like a spark that did not want to go out. Edelia got up and stepped forward. This time, without hesitation and on the way, she discovered that hunger is not just a word. Her insides were growling, and each step became harder. She found some berries. She recognized blackcurrants and rose hips. She ate them with gusto, even though the taste was sour. She learned to feed herself. She learned to drink water from a clear spring. She learned to wash herself, to be surprised, to laugh when a squirrel climbed onto her shoulder thinking it was a branch. Every day, she learned a new language of life. After a few days, she reached the edge of the forest, and in the distance, roofs could be seen, the first houses. Smoke rose to the sky. Dogs barked. Children laughed. Edelia stopped, and her heart beat faster. She had waited for her a lifetime. She had dreamed of them. But now, fear returned. How would they react? Would they accept her? Will they understand her? But she knew what she had to do. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and stepped into the world. Her world. The one she had been born for a second time.